Hello, BookTube. This is a continuation of the big fourth bookcase, the long wall bookcase. We're on shelf 3. We're on part 4. This is all books relating to mythology, ancient religions, that sort of thing. We'll continue on that theme for a little bit. So we're going to start off here with Mircea Eliade, From Primitives to Zen. There he is. A thematic source book in the history of religions. It is exactly what it says it is, a source book. Harper and Row Publishers, New York and Evanston, 1967, first United States edition. So, just to give you an idea from the table of contents. So, Chapter 1, Gods, Goddesses, and Supernatural Beings. Section A, Divinities of Primitives, Pre-Literate Societies. We're already, even at that time, starting to get away from maybe using words like primitives, but or how we use them then. So his first part is Australian supernatural beings. Then he has African high gods and a whole group of them, North American Indians, Polynesia, Colombia, Labrador, and New Guinea. And then part B is gods of the ancient Near East, ancient India, and Japan, and a whole group of those. And then part C is Greek gods and heroes, and Iranian supreme being Ahura Mazda. And then part D is Islam, Allah, and his prophet, with a bunch of stuff. Then chapter 2 is Myths of Creation and of Origin. He starts off Myths of the Creation of the World, and there's a whole group of those. And then Myths of Beginning and End, and that one is a Scandinavian story. Section C is the Creation of Man. D is Myths of Origin and of Death, and E is Myths of the Flood. And then chapter 3, Man and the Sacred. A, Sacred World, Sacred Life, and Sacred Time. B is Origin and Destiny of the Soul and the Powers of Mana. So this is how they're laid out. I'm reading like a letter, but they're followed by all these readings on that subject. So then and types of sacrifice, rituals and oracles, prayers and hymns, patterns of initiation. So again, if there's patterns of initiation, they would follow with examples. Say Plato on initiation, the initiation is the mystery of Isis, an Australian tribal initiation. So then chapter 4 is Death, Afterlife, and Eschatology, Gods, Heroes, and Death, Death in the Intermediate State, Funerary Rituals, Egyptian Conceptions of Death. So I'm just going to read chapter headings now instead of breaking them down. Specialists of the Sacred, from medicine men to mystics and founders of religions. Speculations on man and God. And that's it. So this is Mircea Eliade was one of the great historians of mythology and religion. I've got a few of his books, but not as many as I'd like to have. And to get right into that subject, this is volume 1, Mircea Eliade, History of Religious Ideas from the Stone Age to the Eleusinian Mysteries. And volume 1 is the only volume I have. I really would like to get the others eventually. University of Chicago Press, translated from the French by Willard R. Trask. This is 1978. So, yeah, more Mircea Eliade. He also has a book, Shamanism, that I'd like to find. So here is Caroline Humphrey and Piers Fidebski's Sacred Architecture, Symbolic Form and Ornament Traditions of East and West, and Models of the Cosmos. As the buildings as models of the cosmos. A little French flap type thing going on here. Barnes & Noble Books. Living Wisdom Library. Very nicely illustrated. So a survey of sacred archaeology. And moving right along, we get into this. This was a companion piece to the TV series that really got me interested in this. Bill Moyers. This is the Power of Myth. And let's see. Joseph Campbell, The Power of Myth with Bill Moyers, Betty Sue Flowers, editor, Doubleday, New York. And this was, let me see here. I always love how they move these dates around. There's like no standard. 1988. You gotta just sort of read through the paragraph. Nicely illustrated. It's done in, I hope, maybe you can see here, it'll say like Campbell, Moyers. It's, you know, a dialogue. Sort of like a play, how they wrote it out. So, like I say, illustrated throughout. I'm going to go into a little more Campbell now, a little stretch run of them. This is Campbell's Indian Journals from 1954 to 55, Bakshish and Brahmin. There's I hope you can see him there, a little bit of a glare. Edited by Robin and Stephen Larson and Anthony Van Couvering. HarperCollins Publishers Incorporated. This is HarperCollins, 1995. So this is his impressions of traveling to India. What he thought. They're interesting reads, interesting impressions he had. Not all of them good. Of course, he's writing in his journal at the time, not realizing that anybody would ever be interested in publishing his journals. It makes them that much better to read. He did the same thing for Japan. This one's Saki and Satori, Joseph Campbell. Asian Journals, edited with a foreword by David Cudler, Joseph Campbell Foundation, New World Library, Nevada, California. And this was published in 2002. There are some photographs to go with it. These are fascinating, but they're not where I would recommend somebody starts reading Campbell. I'd read some of his other stuff first. But very interesting. And what I'd probably read, I don't have a copy of a lot of what I used to have. Hero with 1,000 Faces is where I'd probably start, and then I'd go to these volumes. This one here is The Mask of God, Primitive Mythology. Viking Press, 1959. The Mask of God is filled with the excitement and awe of the human mind turning back to examine the sources of its beliefs and aspirations. Our view along the corridor of the past extends further with each advance in archaeology and in anthropology. As the outward aspects of man's prehistory become visible, the common origins of his inner life are progressively revealed. From the new joint efforts of many sciences, a new science, descriptive of the spiritual roots of mankind, becomes possible. So, and then the second volume of that, and I don't have my third and fourth with me. I'm not quite sure where they're at. Well, actually, I probably have it out order here. So, No, that would be right. Mask of God, Oriental Mythology, so that would be the second. It's copyright 1962, also Viking. So Buddhist India, Ancient India, the Ballad of Narmer, which we seem to see in every third book, right? So these are where I would go after reading The Hero with a Thousand Faces. I'm going to pick up other copies of that. And then there's 2 more volumes of that I don't have for some reason. Then A.S. Byatt, Ragnarok, The End of the Gods. Many of you will recognize her. She's winner of the Booker Prize. Wrote Possession, a few other books. This is a Canongate book, Edinburgh, London, New York, and Melbourne, 2011. It's an account of mystery of how a world came together and was filled with magical and powerful beings and then came to an end, a real end, the end. This story has been made from many stories in many languages, Icelandic, German, and others. The names of the persons in the myth vary from telling to telling. Aduna is the same person as Adun. And then she goes on to, there's Woden's Wild Hunt. So this is basically the Yggdrasil, the tree. So this is her retelling of those northern myths. And here we have Oxford World Classics, Eric de Red's, and other Icelandic sagas. I see a lot of these Oxford University Press paperbacks on BookTube. I like them. The choices are good. The white color sort of throws me a little bit. So this is Oxford World Classic, Eric de Red and Other Icelandic Sagas, translated with an introduction by Gwyn Jones. And this was reissued in 2008. So here's some of the sagas covered. Handy size volume for sure. Includes an introduction and a map. The remote and inhospitable landscape of Iceland made it a perfect breeding ground for heroes. The first Norsemen to colonize it in 860, found that the fight for survival demanded high courage and tough self-reliance. It also nurtured a stern sense of duty and an uncompromising view of destiny. These heroic ideals found expression in the Icelandic Sagas, first written down in the 13th and early 14th century, which relate the lives and feuds of individuals and their families between 930 and 1030. Years, not time. They are the very heart strand of the native literature of medieval Iceland, but they are also part of the heroic literature of the German peoples and rank alongside Beowulf, Maldon, and the story of the Nibelungs. Gwyn Jones, the eminent Norse scholar, chose 9 sagas in this book for their excellence and variety. His lively and eloquent translations allow the modern reader to appreciate the bold sweep and fast pace of these stories of adventure. And I like the cover illustration there. And then finally, no dust jacket on this one because it was in rough shape. And I got this one in a recent haul. This is Bulfinch's Mythology, The Age of Fable, with a foreword by Robert Graves, which is why I picked it up. Illustrated by Joseph Papin, Doubleday and Company, Garden City, New York, 1968. 68's this edition with the introduction and all that. I mean, Bulfinch's Mythology was written a long time ago. Just sort of the idea what the illustrations might look like. So that takes care of the 4th part of the 4th bookcase and the 3rd shelf, Mythology. Thank you, BookTube.